Hey, what's going on? I am Tony Jacobson, the author of Disable Your Disability and creator of this OILife YouTube channel. In this OILife Spotlight, I got into conversation with Ben Burns. He is a YouTube creator, he's a video producer, and he's a fellow O.I.er. So we're going to go ahead, if everything is set, to get into his interview. Everyone's ready? All right, take your mark in 3, 2, and action. All right, what's up? I am here with Ben Burns. What's up, Ben? How are you today?
Doing all right, man. How you doing?
Good, good. Thank you so much for taking your time to be a part of this interview here on the OILife channel. It's just super exciting for me to meet fellow O.I.ers and get a chance to interview you and find out more about what's going on in the life of my fellow O.I.ers. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem, man. Anytime.
So I like to start anytime I meet someone else with OI, and to be honest, I didn't know anybody else with OI until I was like in my late 30s, early 40s. I knew one other person, but once I started meeting more people, getting more involved with the community, one of my biggest things is finding out our fabulous four, I like to call it. So that's what type of OI do you have? How many breaks have you had? How many surgeries have you had, if any? And then what type of hardware do you have in your body, if any? So let's start there. Let's break down and tell us your fabulous four.
So I have OI type 4, and I've had 3 surgeries, and I have titanium rods in both of my shins. From past breaks in high school and stuff, but nothing too crazy.
Now, how many breaks have you had?
I stopped counting at 60. So
yeah, I think I lost count about 70 or so. So same thing. So that's awesome. Yeah, the Fab Four, Type 4. Yeah, I think Type 1 and Type 4 are the closest. I have Type 1, so that's for sure. Do you have the blue tint to your sclera in your eyes?
yeah, the blue comes in whenever I get like nervous or like have anxiety or anything like that. So
yeah, I found that same thing for me with Type 1. Mine would only really show up when I'm going to break something, which is really weird.
yeah, my mom always used to tell me that when it would show up for me to be extra careful because I'm more likely to get hurt that way. So
yeah, that's that mom's intuition. What
oh
what
yeah.
is what has your experience been like with your parents? You know, there's a lot of different viewpoints when it comes to parenting with OI. I've met tons of OI parents that deal with their children differently. How were your parents? Were they just go do your thing, or were they, I'm gonna put you in a plastic bubble type thing?
So I grew up with 5 other siblings. I'm the only one who has OI. So I'm the youngest, so they all learned how to parent them in a certain way, and of course they had to find a different way to like discipline me and other things like that. So they found out that I really love technology. So if I would get in trouble or something like that, they would take away, certain things and then give it back to me in a way that I couldn't use it, but I would have to earn it back over time. So that's how they would discipline. As for like going out and doing things, of course there was that fear of me breaking and stuff, but my parents always tried to keep me as normal as possible. So they would like tell the parents if I were to like go and hang out at a friend's house or something like that, they would make sure that the parents knew like, hey, make sure that he doesn't do this, this, and this. And of course, there were times where I didn't listen, like getting on the swings and breaking a leg or something like that. But they tried their best to keep it as normal as possible, and they did a really good job about it.
That's actually a really good thing that your parents have been that way. Mine were very much the be careful, like don't do anything type of parents. Of course, yeah, wouldn't listen, and that's when a lot of breaks would happen. Do your parents treat it as something abnormal? Meaning, is there like was there negativity around when you would break something?
Absolutely not. My parents were always like helpful. They were always really like, even like my senior year. I ditched school. I went to a friend's house without telling my parents. I broke both of my legs. That was the scariest phone call I ever had to make. And my dad, he came to the rescue, came over and was like, "Hey, there's no use on crying over spilt milk. You got caught, but we need to take care of this situation right now. We'll talk about it later." You know, and of course, like he tells me that I didn't get grounded. I just got laid up for 6 months.
Right.
And he said, I'll wait until you get married, and the night of your wedding, you'll be grounded.
Exactly. Like we would
Yeah,
naturally be grounded. It was like,
yeah,
they didn't have to do anything. It's like, oh, you're going to be laid up for 8 weeks, man. That's your grounding.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Well, that's good. That's good that you've had that positivity from your family growing up. What is like one thing about having OI that has impacted you negatively in your life?
When I was in middle school, I went through a pretty deep depression. I my entire life's goal up to that point was I wanted to join the military. And it it kind of, I went up and I talked to some recruiters and stuff, and they all kept telling me no. To this day, I actually have like a petition going around to like help people who have physical disabilities to be able to join the military. So that's a petition that I got going on. But after I found out that I couldn't join, I went through a huge depression where I just didn't think my life had any worth. And then I ended up finding photography and filmmaking, and I had a whole bunch of friends to back me up. And after that, it was smooth sailing.
That's really good. That's really good. You were able to find something else that you could put your passion into, and the fact that you're still pushing forward with something to help others that may find themselves in that same situation. That's great.
Yeah.
But now, what is that exactly? Like, what can you talk a little bit about more about that?
Yeah, yeah, oh, definitely. So, right now, they are in talks they're talking about lowering the physical requirements to be able to join the military. What kind of like jump started the whole thing was about last year. I read an article about how the Air Force was talking about lowering the physical requirements to allow people who are cognitively like smart and superior, because you don't have to have like a physical well-being, like you don't have to be like physically active to be able to fly a drone, so that was something that I started thinking of. And then it started coming up where, well, people who are previously in the military who got discharged medically, who like say are missing a limb or paralyzed, they they can go through a huge deep depression because the military is all that they know. And then, it comes up to the talks, well, if they stayed in the military, that would give them a kind of a self purpose to finish out what they started and not feel incomplete. So it could lower suicide rate, it could lower depression, and also it can give people like me or people who have grown up with a disability the ability to serve their country if they so choose.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. That's awesome to keep pushing with that. Because I absolutely agree. It's like, yeah, we can't do certain things physically, but like you were talking about, like the drone thing. I mean, that's straight up. We're sitting and doing it. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we should be given that opportunity. Now, tell me, what impact has OI had on your life in a positive way?
Honestly, other than like when I was younger, I was on a TV show called Extreme Home Makeover, where they came in, they redid in my entire house, and made the house completely handicap accessible for me, and my family. Other than like that kind of stuff, and I think overall, it's like the people that I've met and the people who I call my friends now. Um, and I'm such an extrovert, it's crazy. I love hanging out with new people. I love meeting new people. So just meeting people and meeting different walks of life, that's honestly probably the best benefit.
And it's so cool that you say that, because a lot of fellow O.I.ers that I've met are actually introverted, just because, I'm not. Also, I'm definitely an extrovert. I love being out there, love getting out there. But a lot of people, just due to the disability, would maybe pin that as a negative, because they're like, oh, I've had to been laid up or stuck in my house. So it's actually great that you've been able to become extroverted and know that, yeah, by, just having this disability, people coming and, paying attention and whatnot, that's actually part of what I like. And that's really cool.
Yeah, I was definitely raised not to be an introvert. My parents definitely, I was in Boy Scouts. I became an Eagle Scout. I did a whole bunch of stuff. I was in ROTC in high school. I was on the swim team, choir. I wasn't allowed to be introverted, so that's
That's
just how I
awesome.
was raised.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's great. Do you want to talk a little bit about the extreme makeover experience?
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever talked about it on the internet. I've actually never talked about it.
Well,
So,
what's
I mean, I'm
funny
totally
is,
open for it.
yeah, I mean, the fact that you say that now, I'm like, yeah, I probably saw the show. And did you talk about having a Y on the show?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that was basically the entire preface of the entire
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
absolutely saw the show. And I'm making the connection now. I'm like, oh, that was you and your family, which is pretty
hmm
amazing. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, tell me, how was your experience of being on that show?
Well, I was 7. So the memory of that is pretty vague. I don't usually talk about it that much, but yeah, it was definitely like what brought me into really loving camera equipment and doing filmmaking, because I was surrounded by that for an entire week, and it was crazy. And I never really made like the connection to it until I got into middle school and started fiddling around with camera equipment and having fun with computers and stuff. But that whole thing back then, so what basically started it off, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the OI Foundation, we have friends in the OI Foundation, and they put our name in for the show, because we were living in an old house that was built in the 50s or 60s, and the house was not really suitable for like wheelchair access, or uh, it wasn't really good for someone who has OI. So they put our name in, and then I got a my dad pulled all of us into one room and was like, "Hey, just to let you know, don't get your hopes up, but this is happening. Camera equipment and camera crews are going to be in the house. Just act normal. Don't do anything dumb. And and so before I knew it, we were told like, okay, we're 5 in line. We're 1 out of 5 families that are in the running, and then it came down to 3. But at that time, by the time they told us that we were 1 out of 5, we were actually the one.
Wow.
So we went through that whole thing, and they wanted to get as much of the story as possible. So we had to talk about when I was younger and I was taken away, because at the time during the late 90s, OI, and to this day, I
Hmm.
believe, a lot of parents are being charged with child abuse, for kids who have OI, and that happened to my parents, and they actually ended up winning me back, and to this day, I have no idea what it would have been like if it ended up a different way, but so they wanted us to talk about that, and it was really emotional. I remember my parents being very emotional about the situation. And then we ended up getting taken to the Four Seasons Resort and Spa, and got pampered, and that's where I found my love for watermelon, which is awesome. And
Yes.
they had this really cool pool that had like music that played underwater, and
Wow.
this was I believe '04.
Hmm.
And for a 7-year old, 6, 7-year old, who loves to swim, going into the water and listening to Elvis Presley is amazing.
Yes, sir.
So
So that's great. And then, so basically, they redid everything. You came back, and then how was your experience? Like, once kind of everything was done, I mean, did it live up to all the expectations and dreams that people that were viewing the show? really felt like, yes, this family's better off. This family is getting something that's going to go into the future and help them. Like, how was it?
Absolutely. It was honestly the best thing. I see the problem is that I vaguely very like remember the old house because, you hit your head a whole bunch of times and,
Yeah.
flip over in wheelchairs, hit your head on the ground. You don't have as good a memory as you used to. But so I remember the house being like we had a huge living room, and the back room was our den. We had a huge den. And me and my brother, we shared a room, and now this is my room, and I have my own bathroom, and the all of the doors in the house are 36 inches,
Oh,
so
wow.
it's easy for wheelchairs to be able to go through. So when I was going through, let's see, I got my first wheelchair when I was in fourth grade, I believe. My dad tried his best to keep me out of a wheelchair, but it ended up getting to where I was, too slow, to keep up with everyone. So we got the wheelchair, and I stayed in the wheelchair until 2 years ago. So that was 21. So having a wheelchair and being able to go through all the doors and ramps, because the old house had steps in front of
Uh-huh.
the house. There's times where we're like, oh, we wish this living room was still here. It was such a really big family room. But then you remember, okay, the floors are padded, so if I fall, I won't break anything. You remember that the doors are bigger. There's handrails all around the house to help you walk. And it's just the benefits basically outweigh the cons in that situation.
Yeah.
And absolutely, I don't regret any of it. And I'm super thankful for everything that they did for my family.
That's great. And you guys are still in the house, which is great. I mean, it's like
Oh yeah.
it's your family house. Yeah. That's
Definitely. Yeah.
awesome,
I
man.
don't I don't believe we're getting rid of this thing anytime soon.
That's great. It's great to hear that that it really was a successful venture and you guys are benefiting from it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were just mentioning your age. You're 23 then?
Yeah. I am
23
23.
now.
Yeah.
In film school. And you've mentioned your love for, where you found your love for camera and film and photography and stuff like that. And it's kind of grown throughout the years. We've seen that. We're going to talk about your YouTube channel, but I just wanted to find out more about how OI has really kind of impacted what you've chosen to do in life with going into film school, creating the YouTube channel, really kind of digging into like that technical side. How do you feel OI has impacted that at all?
Honestly, it really hasn't been a huge impact. The community for technology and the community for photography are super super open. I've been really really blessed to have worked on a couple of commercials and a couple of really awesome photography assignments. I've also done some weddings, and you would think that like the OI would kind of inhibit the ability to be able to get that done, but it hasn't really done too much to push back on the dream of that. There has been some worry in the past where, okay, is the wheelchair going to be able to make it up these rocks? Okay, is this, and that's, and I was talking to my dad a little bit ago, and I was like, I've realized that everyone who has OI has a different form. Not all forms of OI type 4 are the same OI type 4. Everyone is experiencing OI differently. So the way that I experience things may not impact someone else the same way. So, uh, it, with the film community, with the photography community, I believe that it hasn't really affected me that much. I mean, there were times where I was like, okay, Ben, we're learning how to use a dark room for photography. The wheelchair's not going to fit. So they made an accommodation for me to be able to use my own dark room.
Nice.
Or all of the photography and the web design buildings were on the second floor. So I would have to use the elevator. And there was a couple times where the elevator was shut down. So they would give me work to do at home and then turn it in later after the elevator was fixed. I believe that the the growing of society lately has been really beneficial to the disabled community. They're very a lot of people are a lot more respectful and a lot more helpful than they used to be back like before I was born and stuff like that. I've heard countless stories, but uh, it's awesome to see how you know people are out there to help you and people are out there to accommodate you. You know, I climbed a rock wall. I never thought I would ever do that. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been wanting
yeah,
to do that one too.
yeah. It honestly, dude, it was scary. It was. I have the biggest fear of heights
No, me too.
imaginable,
You
and
know,
it's crazy.
it's crazy because I've learned that it's not I'm not afraid of the height. I'm afraid of falling. So like
Exactly.
that's
That's
it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, see,
So
like I don't like planes, but
yeah,
it's the idea of gravity. I always say this, everyone knows it, but the gravity was invented for a reason. I need to stay down here, type of deal.
exactly. Well, yeah, and I attribute it a lot to, me breaking stuff when I fall. Like, just
Mhm.
throughout life, if I fall, I break. Like I had that equation in my mind. So just that fear of, just simply falling from a standing position, let alone being up on top of something, and
Yeah,
falling. So that's a deep seated fear that's there. But this is great. Just knowing that the OI hasn't necessarily impacted you as far as your career choice, as far as what you want to do. It's definitely been beneficial in a way because it's given you that, mentality and thought process and knowledge to be able to go in and learn this stuff technically. So I think that's great. And I really wanted to talk to you about the YouTube channel. I found you through YouTube. And that's, talk to me about why you started the YouTube channel. And I noticed on the YouTube channel, you didn't necessarily talk about OI or your disability at first, but then I saw a couple things starting to come through. So kind of talk to me about that journey for you with the channel.
yeah. So I initially started the YouTube channel back when YouTube was still in its infancy. I believe I was in sixth or seventh grade, and I did it because I saw a whole bunch of YouTubers doing vlogs, and I wanted to do that. I thought it was really really cool. So I started doing vlogs, and then I started finding other YouTube channels where I was like, oh. These people talk about technology. That's really cool. So then I tried that out for a little bit. It didn't really work out. So I for some reason I always come back to vlogging. And then it kind of sparked in my head when I was I want to say 19 or 20 um, that I never really talked about, why I was in a wheelchair. I always made fun of my YouTube channel saying, well, people are interested in how someone in a wheelchair lives his life. And then I always joked about that. And then one day I kind of sat down and I was like, maybe people are actually interested in this. Maybe I
Right.
should actually talk about this. And ever since I started talking about it, people have been asking me questions. People have been wanting me to talk more about it. And yeah, I like to put a lot of like my photography and my art into my videos. But like I have a TikTok channel as well where, I talk about the bones that I break. And people ask me questions about how I've broken bones. And like I have this running thing where I'm like, okay, pick a bone on my body and I'll tell you how I broke it. You
Nice.
know, so that's TikTok, and YouTube is more of like this is my everyday thing. This is how I'm living um, my life, and one of the reasons why I started to talk about it was um, I figured that if I could have a positive outlook on the situation that I have, then maybe somewhere someone who is having a harder time can watch my videos and see, well, this guy's going through the same stuff as me. Maybe, maybe it's not so bad, you know? And so that's the reason, that's one of the reasons why I started talking about it.
That's awesome. So answer this question for me or finish this statement. OI to me is
OI to me is community and fun. That's basically what I would say. A lot of people who are supporting, and a lot of fun that you can have with people who are around you.
All right, Ben, thank you so much for being here today. Do you have any final thoughts for our fellow O.I.ers out there?
Just keep going. It gets better, and honestly, have fun with it. You know, don't overthink it too much, and get out there and do what you want. Don't let it stop you.
I hope you enjoyed this interview. Make sure you check out some other Spotlight interviews right there. And also, there's a ton of OI related content here on the channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit that little bell icon so you'll get notified every single time a new video goes up. Until next time, get out there and keep breaking barriers, not bones.